Well, it is a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you this afternoon and tomorrow for some time to take a look at what it looks like to assess from a proficiency-oriented standpoint. So I'm really looking forward to being with you here. But I do want to just get a few notes in before we get started. And here is what I want you to be aware of. What I'm doing versus what I'm not doing. Because I think sometimes people come in and say, here we go, this is what we're going to do, and I want you to go home now and do exactly what I'm saying to you. But what I'm saying to you today is the following. I'm not here to tell you what to do or to say that what we do at Michigan State University will work in your teaching context. I'm not here to tell you that, and I hope you appreciate that. You can give me a round of applause, and I'll say, thank you, Walter. I'm glad to know that you're not going to be saying that to us. What I will be doing, however, is I'm here to give you a demonstration and to try to see what pieces you might be able to take from this and use in your context. So those are very different things. I'm not here saying, here's what we do at Michigan State, take it and now make it work for you exactly as we're doing. What I'm saying is, here's what we're doing at Michigan State, here's some of the tools that we have been able to put into place at Michigan State, and they work for us, but maybe you'll find that they don't work exactly the same way for you because your context is very different. I cannot sit here and say that every single individual in this room is going to, in their context, be able to use what we're using at Michigan State and to use it successfully, because that would be absurd of me to say that. So I also want you to know that what we do at Michigan State is not perfect. And we're always tweaking and trying to find ways to make it better. So as you just heard, the reality is that a lot of times we want everything to be perfect when we first start, but it won't happen. A lot of times it just simply takes jumping in head first and hoping that something is going to work out, and then discover, well, that didn't work exactly as I had hoped, and then making adjustments as we go along. And so that's kind of what we've done at Michigan State, and that's what I'm going to show a little bit to you this afternoon. So let me just share very briefly here about our program at Michigan State, because I think this plays into how we've set things up. We are a 3-1 program. What I mean by this is that we have 4-credit courses that meet 3 days a week. So students do something that we call pre-class activities online before they come to class. So what that means is that even though they're getting 4 credits for the class, we're only meeting with them on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And our evening courses meet on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so they're coming before they get to class. They have already seen and been exposed to the material. We have a flipped model. Okay, so some of you are probably familiar with that concept. We're also 3-1 in this sense. We have 3 semesters with a 1-semester capstone. So though the courses are still called elementary Spanish, elementary French, and intermediate Spanish, intermediate French, what it really is that our first 3 semesters are whatever you want to call it, but the first 3 semesters of the language, and then the 4th semester is a capstone course that caps off those 4 semesters together. So this is what we have set up at Michigan State in both the Spanish and the French program. So what I'm going to do for you this afternoon is I'm going to do a teaching demonstration. I want you to see how a normal class would be. How many of you in here have never, ever taken a Spanish class before? Good. How many of you know absolutely no Spanish? Perfect. This is exactly perfect. So why don't we see, maybe I want to see what different languages are represented here today, because this is interesting to me. How many different languages? Let's see. How many are teaching an Asian language? Okay, an Asian, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Arabic, okay. How many teaching African languages? Any African languages? Well, Arabic, sure. Yeah. Swahili, okay. And how about Romance languages? Okay, which ones do we have represented here? Spanish, French, Spanish as well. And other European languages? Germanic, Slavic. So we have some German, maybe? Some Swedish? What are some other ones? Any others?
Old Norse, Icelandic, and Norwegian.
Wow. Great. I'm excited to hear that. This is exciting. So I'm going to, as I mentioned, I'm going to do a teaching demonstration in Spanish. And I want this to be an experience. This is actually from one of our first semester courses. So I want this to be an experience where you're thinking, I don't know anything, but hopefully I'm still going to be able to do what he's wanting us to do. So here is what I want you to do. We're going to be taking a look at a family. The focus of today is family. And so we're going to be looking at un árbol genealógico, which is a family tree. And basically at the end of this lesson, we would want our students to be able to talk with someone and be able to describe their family. So we're proficiency oriented, so we have a goal. We said that our goal is we want students to be able to talk about their family, describe their family, and then also what they do is they're able to then fill in their partner's family tree, basically, at the end of class, is the idea. Okay? Are we ready? You don't sound so excited. ¡Listos! Muy bien. Ok, vamos a hablar de mi familia. Primero, esta es mi madre. Mi madre y este es mi padre. Son mis padres. Mi madre, mi padre, mis padres. Mi madre se llama Ana María. Ella es Ana María. Mi padre se llama Tim. ¿Yo me llamo Tim? No, yo me llamo Walter. Mi padre se llama Tim. Mi madre se llama Ana María o se llama María. Ana María, ¿verdad? Se llama Ana María. Esta es mi hermana. Y este es mi hermano. Mi hermano vive en Colorado, en Denver, Colorado. Yo no vivo en Denver. Mi hermana y mi hermano. Y yo. Sin barba. La barba es nueva. New, ¿verdad? Entonces, ella es mi hermana, él es mi hermano, él es mi padre, ella es mi madre. Mi madre se llama Ana María. Mi padre se llama Tim. Mi hermana se llama Maureen. Y mi hermano se llama Jerry. Y yo soy Walter. Entonces, vamos a ver. Tim y Ana, o Ana María, son los padres de Maureen, Walter y Jerry. Tim es el padre y Ana es la madre. ¿Todo bien? ¿Sí o no? Entonces, ella es Maureen, ¿verdad? ¿Sí o no? No, ella no es Maureen. ¿Quién es ella? Ana María, ¿verdad? Él es Walter, ¿verdad? No, él no es Walter. ¿Cómo se llama él? Jerry, él es Jerry. Muy bien. Ok, además, Tim y Ana son esposos. Son esposos. Tim es el esposo y Ana es la esposa. ¿Jerry es el esposo de Maureen? No, ¿verdad? Jerry no es el esposo de Maureen. Jerry es el hermano de Maureen. ¿Todo bien? Ok. So I'm going to saltar un poquito here. Entonces, ahora, ¿cierto o falso? True or false? ¿Cierto o falso? Mi padre se llama Jerry. ¿Cierto o falso? Falso. Mi padre no se llama Jerry. ¿Cómo se llama mi padre? Tim, ¿verdad? Sí, mi padre que se llama Tim. ¿Y quién es Jerry? ¿Jerry es mi hermano o es mi esposo? Es mi hermano, ¿verdad? Jerry es mi hermano. ¿Cierto o falso? Tengo dos hermanos. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Es decir, tengo un hermano y una hermana, ¿verdad? Tengo dos hermanos, cierto. Ana es mi madre, ¿cierto o falso? Cierto. Ana sí es mi madre. I didn't talk about that one because I skipped it, but and that one too. Bien, because I'm trying to make sure we get in a lot here tonight. So, ahora mi familia. ¿Quién es? ¿Es Jerry o es Walter? Walter, ¿verdad? Esta es mi esposa. Se llama Laura. Y yo tengo dos hijos. Él es mi hijo. Se llama Zach. Todos digan, Y mi hija se llama Eliana. Eliana. Esta es mi familia. También tenemos un gato. El gato se llama Houdini. Este es el nombre de mi gato. Y antes teníamos una perra, Ebony, pero ya no tenemos a Ebony. Pobre Ebony, ¿verdad? Ahora, Walter y Laura son los padres. Walter, yo soy el padre. Laura es la madre. Aquí, Walter es el esposo, Laura es la esposa, ¿verdad? Ok, seguimos adelante. El hijo, hermano. Ok, ¿cierto o falso? Mi esposa se llama Eliana. ¿Cierto o falso? Falso. ¿Cómo se llama mi esposa? ¿Se llama Maureen o se llama Laura? Laura, mi esposa se llama Laura. ¿Quién es Eliana? ¿Eliana es mi hermana o Eliana es mi hija? Eliana es mi hija. Ok, tengo dos hijos. Eliana es la hermana de Zach. Zach es menor, no hemos hecho eso. El perro se llama Houdini, no. El gato se llama Houdini. Bueno, vamos a seguir adelante. Entonces, clase, ¿quiénes son? ¿Son mis hermanos o son mis padres? Son mis padres, ¿verdad? Muy bien. Qué preciosos, ¿verdad? Están bailando. Ok. Ok. Ahora, ¿qué parentesco tienen? ¿Quién es? ¿Esta es Laura? No. ¿Esta es Ana María? No. ¿Esta es Maureen? Sí. ¿Este es Tim? ¿Es Zach? ¿Es Jerry? Sí, ¿verdad? Y soy yo. ¿Ellos son hijos o hermanos? Son hermanos, ¿verdad? Ella es mi hermana, él es mi hermano. Bien, ¿qué parentesco tienen? ¿Quién es? ¿Esta es Ana María o Laura? Laura. Entonces, ¿cuál es el parentesco? Esposos, ¿verdad? Son esposos. ¿Esta es Laura? ¿Es Eliana? No, es Ana María, ¿verdad? ¿Y Ana María es mi hija? ¿Es mi hermana? ¿Es mi madre? Sí, es mi madre, ¿verdad? Bien. Colorado. Bonito, ¿verdad? This was July. Look at that snow. Ok, lo siento. ¿Quién es? Mi hermano, ¿verdad? Jerry es mi hermano. Bien. Ok. I'm going to jump through this a little quickly, but just so that you're aware. Son mis abuelos. Esta es mi madre. Ella es hija única, es decir, que no tiene hermanos. Mi padre no es hijo único. Él tiene muchos hermanos, muchísimos hermanos. Mis padres no son divorciados, entonces no tengo padrastro, no tengo hermanastro, no tengo hermanastra. Cierto, falso, mi padre es hijo único, etc. Son preguntas de cierto o falso otra vez. Y después vamos a describir a su familia. Okay, so we've gone through at a very quick pace a typical 101 class about la familia. Okay? So then at the end, they're going to write some sentences. They're going to share it with their partners. Their partners are going to fill out a family tree. And we're going to see how they do with this. All right? So this is a proficiency-oriented with comprehensible input as the primary method of instruction. What are some things that you notice? I want to point some things out to you. Questioning techniques. What are some things you notice about questioning techniques? Exactly. One of the things we talk about in our training of TAs is something that I feel is really important. I'm going to use this little whiteboard here. Right? We always tell them that when you start out, you want to start out with something basic, a yes or no question. Then you can move into those either or questions, like is this my brother or my father? Is this my sister or my mom? Those types of things. And then transition to those more open-ended questions, like who is this? Okay? A lot of times as language teachers, we want to start out with these open-ended questions, who is this? But we haven't given our students enough comprehensible input for them to be able to provide the response that is open-ended. And so in order for us to do that, one of the things we discuss is to follow this kind of procedure of questioning techniques from yes, no, to either or, to then more open-ended. All right, how about comprehension checks? What are some things that you noticed about comprehension checks? Yes.
You always gave options. So when you said, is this person or this person, you always gave the or.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm doing it, just speaking out loud, I'm saying, is it this or this? Yeah. So I was giving those specific comprehension checks. How about those cierto falso things? Those are helping students to then break the lesson down into smaller chunks, right? So I'm able to see after just a brief introduction, I'm talking a little bit about this particular part of my family, then I can do a comprehension check, see, are we catching on to this? Then I'm going to transition, I'm going to move on to, let me add this little bit to my family, then do a little comprehension check. And then I'm going to add this little bit more, so I get into even, because our book talks about step parents and step brothers and sisters and these types of things, so I threw that in there as well. I didn't spend much time with that with you, but for the purpose of time, because we have a few other things that we want to get to this afternoon. But the idea is, as we're adding things on, there are comprehension checks throughout to see, are they actually getting what I just did? And if not, then maybe we need to go back and take a look at it and process through this a little bit more. Sure. Well, this is the reason why. But you're right. I mean, you want to do some more of that. You certainly. I mean, there are times when I would say "es mi esposa" o "es mi hija," right? So, but there are other times I may just ask the person's name. But the reality is that our students are interested in knowing more than just language. They're interested in knowing us as people, and at least that's something that's very important to me. Is that I want students to understand that our language is not just about some, like I'm not putting up La Familia Ramirez and I'm talking about some random people. I'm actually talking about myself. And so that's what I would just say is that engaging students basically by using real life communication, talking about things that are real to me. Now, I think that the reality is that maybe there should be more hijo or hermano, those types of things, processing through the language. But I don't think it hurts to have, when you're saying the names of various people, because they're then trying to make those connections with the people who then, and with the, if we're looking at the actual cierto falsos, I wasn't asking specific, like, is this Laura or Eliana? I'm asking more specifically trying to include that vocabulary in here. So, does that make sense? Okay, we could talk later if you want. All right. So I'm going to then say, so this would be a lesson that we would do to build up to our can-do statement on family, all right? The one that I was just showing to you. Now I'm just very briefly going to kind of run through a lesson that we would do on comparisons that's in the same chapter on family. In a previous chapter, they've already learned some on adjectives, and so these are actually using some of these adjectives as comparisons. I'm just going to very, very quickly run through this for simply the purpose of showing you what is it that they've been exposed to before they're actually going to be assessed on a can-do statement. So this is an MSU basketball player, which probably makes no difference to you, but ¿quién es más alto? Who's taller? We talk about who do you think is prettier? Who do you think is more athletic? Who do you think is funnier? Who do you think is more handsome? Who do you think is less famous? We get into the less. Who do you think is less liberal, less eccentric, less pessimistic, okay, less energetic? And then we do the comparisons based on equal comparisons, right? So this person is as funny as this person. Do you think so? This person is as funny as this person. Is this person as old as this person? Does anyone know the answer? Bernie's older, just a little bit older. Messi is as athletic as Stephen Curry. Oops, I went the wrong direction. Bill Van Patten is as interesting as I am. I don't know. We won't talk about that one. Then I bring up my family again. My wife has 3 siblings, so 2 sisters and a brother. Does she have more brothers and sisters than I have? She also has a living grandmother. My grandparents have all passed away. So then they get to the point where they're talking about the numbers and then making comparisons with their classmates. Okay? So that kind of gives you an idea of what they've seen. So then we come to the assessment, which is the can-do assessment. And this is the point where I want to say once again, this is something we've tweaked on multiple occasions. The first semester we did something different. Actually, the first class we did it, and then even in that same semester we tried to do some things. So these can-do assessments are things that we implemented about 3 years ago. And we find them helpful and beneficial for us, but as I mentioned, we're constantly tweaking and trying to find ways to improve them. So what I will point out to you, and this is what we like to point out to our students every time we do a can-do statement, is that we have a proficiency goal that we've stated for our program. So by the end of Spanish 202, which is the 4th semester, we want students to reach intermediate mid, which is the following things. So they can handle successfully a variety of uncomplicated communicative tasks, predictable, concrete exchanges, personal information, personal preferences, physical, social needs. And so this is what we want them to be able to do by the end of 4 semesters. And this, of course, as I mentioned, is the family is in that 1st semester. So the ones that we've talked about, family, I can describe my immediate and extended family members and what they look like. And I can ask someone about his or her family and what his or her family members look like. So both being able to describe their own family and then ask questions about someone else's family. And so we always start out a can-do statement day by asking them this question. What do you think at the beginning of the class period, how do you think you would be able to do with this? Do you feel like you can perform this function with ease? That is to say, do you think you can do these things with ease? Do you think you can do them but not easily? Or are you not sure that you can actually do this? All right? And so this is actually something that they will have done the night before on those pre-class assignments as well. Assess themselves so that they can think to myself, oh, if I mark down a 2 or one of these last 2, then maybe I need to do some preparation because tomorrow we're having a can-do statement day in class. All right? So then I'll go through again, just doing a very basic understanding of class. I'll partner the students up and I say, okay, now, with your partner, you're going to pick one person in your family, okay? And that one person in your family, you're going to describe their basic physical characteristics, all right? So tall, short, medium-sized, color hair, skinny, color eyes, what's their hair like, is it straight, is it curly, these types of things. So I give them some ideas. What are some things that you might describe about that? So they get together with a partner, they say, I'm going to describe my one family member, I'm going to choose my hermano, and we're going to talk a little bit about my hermano with my partner. Then I say, okay, so how'd you do? How do you feel this first time around? If I were to grade you right now, what do you think you would say? That you can do this with ease, that you found that you had a little bit of difficulty, but you could do it, or that you weren't able to do it. So then we process through it, and I say, so what were some of the problems? What were some of the things that you weren't able to say? What caused you trouble? What did you need to know? What were some of the words or expressions that you were confused about? And so then we take a little bit of time for debriefing. We say, I put it up here. Okay, so you wanted to be able to say this. Well, let's talk about how you would say that. And what was the context? So we talk through some of this. We say, these are some of the issues that you face. So we'll give them a little bit more input, because a lot of the times they're like, I didn't remember the word for blue eyes. I didn't remember the word for, I don't know. So then we say, okay, well now we're going to give you a little bit more input. So we go through and we say, this person has green eyes or blue eyes. This person has brown eyes, or this person has freckles. This person is a redhead. This person is really tall and skinny. How about this person? So we'll go through these again, just some basic reminders of vocabulary. Okay? So then we say, all right, find a different partner. Now let's try this again one more time. Let's see how you do. Except for now you're going to pick a different person, and you're going to pick two people. So I say, now pick two family members, all right? And with that partner, now you're going to say, describe these two family members. You're going to say, this person is this person is this person is this, and then your partner is going to do that same thing. We always put, puro español. Okay? I don't want to hear any inglés during this time. Por favor. Okay? And then we do one final, still having trouble. Anything else? What can we find? What's finally, just some final questions or issues that you want to have addressed? What do you think? We're about to do this now. So how about you rate yourself finally, and then I say, all right, get out your phone and give me a call. So the way we do this, we used to have some of you may have used this tool through Clear. It was where you could actually ask a question and the student respond, ask a question and the student respond, but it's no longer available, and it's very sad. It's so sad that it's no longer available. But now we use a Google Voice system, and basically what it is we set it up so that students call and just leave a voicemail message. It doesn't go to your phone. It just goes, if you have a Gmail account, it's just basically, it's there on your Google account, all right? And so then you go in and you listen to them. I always tell the instructors and TAs, though, turn off the automatic dictation, because what will happen is that it will transcribe everything that's said, but it transcribes it into English. And so sometimes it's pretty funny to watch what they've said in Spanish be transcribed into English, because it makes absolutely no sense. But nevertheless, so they call, they leave a message, and I say to them, always first say your name, because otherwise I have no idea who you are. So you need to make sure you say your name. Just like write your name on the top of the paper. And then I say, you're going to describe 3 family members. You're going to describe your mom, your dad, and one other person. And then I actually put up an example here. I say, mi madre se llama Ana, es de estatura mediana, tiene el pelo moreno y los ojos marrones. And then I say, but that's not staying up there, my friends. So that goes away after I give them an example of what it is they're going to do. So 3 physical characteristics about each person. And then finally, exactly what we've been showing them throughout is how it's graded. If they were able to perform this function with ease, then they receive a 2. If they were able to perform the function but not easily, or there was a fair amount of difficulty in comprehension, then they receive a 1. And if they were unable to perform the function, then they receive a 0. So this is how we at Michigan State are assessing can-do statements at the 101, 102, and 201 level. Any questions before I move on to the 202 level, which is slightly different. I think this is going to hit on some of you who are working with intermediate level courses. So.
Yeah, when they call you, they do it during class time or is that homework?
No, we have them do it during class time because I don't want them grabbing their book or their notebook or anything like that. We actually have them put everything away. You can't have anything out on your desk. And they say, I have to do it in here with everyone else listening. I say, well, we do that with speaking activities all the time. You're just talking on your phone instead of talking to a person, right? So yeah, they right there in the classroom, we leave the last somewhere between 5 and 8 minutes usually at the end of the class, and they all call.
And then you listen to these messages in your office?
Correct, yeah. So then I go back to my office and I grade them, right?
So, you do those numbers, you've had to transform your whole, final grading system, and does your university accommodate that? Because that doesn't translate into the nuances between an 81 and an 83.
Correct.
Like an A minus, B minus, that kind of thing. And that's all, I assume you're going to tell us how you do it in the classroom. Like, in your class grade, like you've now given them, yes, you have achieved proficiency, so you pass on to the next. I assume you're going to tell us that, but then the other piece I'd like to know is, but then if you've ended up at the end of the class, all of this is against letter grades, but what do you do if your institution still uses letter grades?
Well, and we still do, right? So basically what we've done is we still have and this is all explained in an article that I wrote with Bill Van Patten in the Clear News, and I think that it was made available to some of you, if not all of you. And basically what we did is we lowered the stakes for this, and we lowered the stakes for the what was originally a paper and pencil test. And so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to explain what happened is, so we had been giving just regular paper and pencil tests, and what we decided to do was to move them to an online format, but not call them tests. And so the students saw them as just any other activity that they were doing online because they were already doing their pre-class activities online on a regular basis. And so we just called these activities synthesis activities, and we didn't want them to be seen as a test. We just wanted students to do them just as though they were doing any other regular activity that they were doing in preparation for class, because what they were preparing for in this case was a can-do statement. So the can-do statements became 20% of the grade, and the synthesis activities, I believe they're maybe 25% of the grade. And so we're still hitting there in that right around that 50% mark. But so if a student doesn't perform well on this, then the effect that it's going to have on their grade is not going to be as great as if it were a 50%, for example, if they had gotten a 50 on a test, for example, a paper and pencil test. So those two things kind of work together as that ultimate assessment. So the others are their online homework assignments, and we have pop quizzes that we do in class that are content-based pop quizzes. Those are included in that other 50% as well. We do 5 of them per semester.
And so, say if somebody's average is 1, does that mean they have a 50% average for that component?
Yes, so they would have a 10 out of 20.
So it's like they get an F if they do it, but not easily. Right? Because 10 out of 20 is 50%.
Right, so it would be basically the highest grade they could get in the class would be a 90 if they got everything else. If they did everything else perfectly. But yes, we are only doing them for spoken. We do writing tasks, but they're not the same. We don't do them in the same way, and we only actually do writing in the second year. So we only do writing at the 200 level as opposed to at the 100 level. We do pre-writing at the 100 level, and so students are doing some pre-writing activities that include things like discourse scrambles, where they're having to put sentences in order, where they're learning transition words, like then and first, and things like that. And they're learning what are introductions and conclusions and things like that. So, and let me just say this again, because I don't want my communicating to you what we're doing at Michigan State is not my communicating to you, hey, this is what you need to do because this works and it's great and it's amazing. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is this is what we're doing, and maybe it doesn't work for you, and that's okay. But I hope that there are some principles that you can grab from this and take use of, make use of them, and that they might be helpful. There may be more questions, but I do want to make sure I take some time to look at the intermediate, what we're doing at the intermediate level, because I think this might be really interesting for you. So we have can-do statements for our Spanish 202 course, which is the 4th semester, but they're done quite differently. And so I told you that I was going to focus my attention today on family, and so I decided to choose this particular one from Spanish 202. So you notice that once I get to the 4th semester, it's not just I can describe my family, but now what we're asking them to do, I can describe what I think constitutes a family, and I can ask questions to find out what someone else thinks is a family. And so, and I'm going to show you a little bit about what we mean with this. We do our can-do statements in 202 with a twist, I say. And we use a program called Talk Abroad. I don't know if any of you familiar with Talk Abroad or have heard of it, perhaps. Okay. So Talk Abroad is a program where our students have a 30-minute conversation with native speakers of Spanish. We also use this in our French program. They have it in several languages. I don't know right off the top of my head which ones they are. So if you'd like to check it out, it's just talkabroad.com. And so what we do is our students have a 30-minute conversation as their can-do statement for 202. And it's not graded in the same way. And so that's why I want to make sure I take a little bit of time to talk through this with you. How do students? Well, that's interesting, because that's not what's showing up on my screen. How do we prepare students is basically what it says. And that's not showing up on my screen either. But so they complete the pre-class activities just like they do in the 101, 102, 201. So this might be a sample pre-class activity. What is some of the vocabulary that they might be exposed to in a video, which I'll show you here in just a minute. And so that has to do with family. And so these are some of the things that they might be exposed to about family. There's our how do we prepare students. All right. So what does class time consist of? Class time consists of a lot of discussion around the topic. In this case, ¿qué es una familia? What is a family? Particularly about things that our amigos, our Así lo veo people, say about the topic. So we use a textbook program called Así lo veo. And what Así lo veo is it's basically a documentary of conversations that people have had with native speakers of Spanish about these types of topics. So we only cover 4 of them. The book actually has 12 different topics, but we've ordered a custom publication of the book, so we only use 4 of those topics. And we look at what is a good person, can people change, what is a family, and has marriage changed? All right. So those are the 4 topics that we look at over the course of the semester. And so they see this documentary basically called Así lo veo, and they hear perspectives from 6 different people. We call them our amigos because we get to know them very well throughout the course of the semester. All right. And so our topics of discussion in class are based on what those people are saying, with the goal of course, giving them input, hearing what they're saying, and then them being able to use that same type of vocabulary. So this is one of our amigas in this case. Her name is Ruth. All right, and so we would listen to this video. Now I'm not going to. I just show you. It'll play here, and we'll hear what Ruth thinks is a family. Okay, and so these are some of the vocabulary things that she says. She talks about fruto, matrimonio, reglas, and leyes. So fruit. She actually talks about something being the fruto del matrimonio, the result of marriage is a family, all right, and rules and laws. She's someone that we would perhaps consider has a very traditional idea of what family is, all right. And so we talk about that. There's some of the words that she uses, so we would bring those up. What does she talk about? So we go through these things and say, does she mention el matrimonio? Yep. Does she mention los hijos? Yep. Does she mention los amigos? No. Which means friends. Does she mention that friends could be part of your family? No. Does she talk about rules? Yep, she talks about rules. Does she talk about apoyo, which means support? Nope, she doesn't talk about that. Does she talk about love? Yep. Does she talk about mascotas, pets? Nope. Does she talk about siblings? And she doesn't talk about that. So these are the 4 things that she kind of bases her discussion about. So we watch a little bit more. we say, okay, does she say this? Sometimes there are people that get married and they don't love each other. Does she say that? All right? And says, no, she doesn't say that. The purpose of marriage is to raise children. Does she say that? Yes, she does say that. Okay? So they get an idea through this. She talks about family being a small society, una pequeña sociedad. We talk about what that would mean, what that would look like, and what do you think about that? She talks about the rules. You know, you have to have rules in a family. And then we say, well, why do we have rules? To protect, to limit, to teach, something else, these types of things. We talk about that. And then we would listen to another conversation about, this is a young college student. Her name is Yolanda. And she has a very different perspective than what Ruth would have about what family is. And so she says, la familia es bastante importante. It teaches us how to interact with people. What do you think? Do you agree with that? I'm just going to run through this quickly here. Talk a little bit about your family. We talk about this because this is something that often comes up in the Talk Abroad conversations. Children and independence. We talk about how a lot of times children don't leave their parents' house until much later, sometimes well into their 30s. And that's really always very surprising to our students because, of course, they want their independence at 18 and they're done and they're out of there, which is a very different experience for the people that they're talking to. And so then we spend a class day preparing them for the Talk Abroad conversation. We talk about such things as how to initiate conversation, how to transition from initial greetings to talking about the topic. So instead of, hey, how you doing? My name is this. I do this. I live here. You live there. Oh, that's great. Tell me a little bit about your country. Now, okay, what do you think about family? So we talk about how you might transition into those types of things. Some potential questions to ask, and then how to conclude a conversation. So this is what we would do in preparation for their can-do statement, all right, which is their Talk Abroad conversation. So some of the questions that we would offer them. So how important is your family in your life? Is it necessary to launch and create your own family once you become an adult? What is the role of the family? Does it change as the years pass? Do you think that the idea of family in your culture differs from the idea of family in the United States? Do you live near your family? Is it common to stay near family or to move a distance to start one's own life? Or on life? That should be own life. Do you think that media, television, movies, etc., has had an influence on what family is in your culture today? So these are some of the things that we have talked about in class over the course of, these usually go on for about, the videos with our amigos go on for about 3 or 4 class days, and then we have the Talk Abroad conversations. I was going to do some samples, but we're running low on time. So I'll just, if you would like to see them, I'd be happy to for those of you who are familiar with Spanish, to let you listen to some of the sample conversations. But after the conversation, we have 2 assessments, all right? And the 2 assessments are a PowerPoint presentation that they complete with a partner about your conversation, comparing what you heard from your Talk Abroad partner with what your classmate heard from his or her Talk Abroad partner. So basically, there are 2 people in class sitting down together, and they're going to compare what they heard about their friend in Chile and what their friend in class heard from their friend in Ecuador, for example. All right? And they're going to present that to the class. The other assessment is a 250 to 300 word transcript of the conversation. And we ask them to specifically transcribe the portion that has to do with the topic. So, ¿qué es una familia? What is a family? So I don't want them to just simply transcribe things like, hola, me llamo es Jose. Don't transcribe that, but rather transcribe the part that is specific to what is a family. All right? So these are the 2 assessments, and let me show you how we then we would grade these things. So the PowerPoint presentations are basically graded on a completion basis. That means that they did it and they did what they were supposed to do. So what are we looking for? The students have an introductory slide, and we explain to them that what the introductory slide is my name is this, my partner's name is this, and this was our conversation, these, etc. Check. Do the students introduce their conversation partners and compare where they are from, what they do for work, etc.? So we want them to make sure that they have a comparison about what their conversation partner does or where their conversation partner lives versus their classmate's conversation partner. Do the students include information that they learned about their conversation partners' hometowns and or home countries and make comparisons between the two conversation partners? So we want them to not just talk about what a family is, but also find out a little bit about this person. This is a perfect opportunity for you to get some really interesting information about whatever the country happens to be. If they've done that, then check. Do the students include 2 to 3 slides demonstrating and comparing what the conversation said about this topic? And so this is kind of the meat of it, basically. Are you actually having the conversation that you're supposed to have, which is about what is a family, and what does your partner say about that, and how does that compare to what your classmate's partner said about that particular topic? And do the students include a slide that shows 2 to 3 new things that they learned about Spanish, specific language things that they learned during their conversations? And if they do those things, then they would get a 5 out of 5 for their presentation on the conversation. Now, this one is oftentimes a sticking point because students say, I didn't learn anything new. And I say, look ashamed. You just spent 30 minutes talking to a native speaker. How can you not learn anything new? Clearly, you did not know every single last word that they used. Clearly, you did not know every single thing that they said. Impossible. I digress. Sorry, I get a little bit excited about this. So anyway, but that is the only part that we've ever had any issue with students complaining about. They say, I didn't learn anything new. But alas, it is the reality. All right, so coming back to the transcripts, basically, again, we're grading these on completion, but we don't want to simply give them, oh, you did it, good, you get a 10 out of 10, all right? What we've decided to do here is that if you did it and made some sort of effort, then you're at least going to get a 7 out of 10. But a 10 is going to be student completed the transcription, demonstrated sincere effort and a clear understanding of what was being communicated. In other words, they transcribed that thing pretty well, okay? Those 250 to 300 words. Student completed the transcription and demonstrated effort and some understanding of what was being communicated. So notice that this is some understanding, not clear understanding. And 8, student completed the transcription and demonstrated effort but had limited understanding of what was being communicated. And 7, student completed the transcription but either did not make much effort to clearly understand what was being communicated and capture that in his or her transcription, or student transcribed multiple things inaccurately. So that would be a 7 out of 10 for that. And then finally 0, student did not complete the transcription. Let me grab a sip of water. Sure, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, in the target language.
And all you were grading, though, is just content, right? You're not grading on, pragmatics or...
Correct. And this specifically is where we kind of get more into that. This is more, in the transcript, would be more correlated with what you might see in a proficiency level descriptor, right? So where, like, for example, in a writing assignment, you might see something that says limited understanding, some understanding, clear understanding, those types of words. So those are, that's where you would get more of that. Now, the reality is they're having a 30-minute conversation. They're transcribing 250 to 300 words. So that's a short segment. Part of that is because it's impossible as an instructor to listen to 30-minute conversations for all of your students. I mean, that's just impossible, right? So, so the only part that you listen to is the part that they've transcribed. You can listen to more of it. It's not to say that you can't, because we're provided with recordings of all of our students' conversations via Talk Abroad. And so we would listen to specifically the part that they've transcribed and then grade that portion. Yes, so that actually, so basically we've set it up in 3-week modules. The first week is kind of the videos where they go through the different the different with the amigos. Then they have this week of Talk Abroad where they're working on their presentations and presenting. And then the next week is a writing workshop where we spend day one talking through main secondary ideas, where they're actually now talking about what they think is a family. So, or what they think about marriage, or what they think about can people change. So, so then they spend that week in the writing workshop. First day is the main secondary ideas, coming up with what they think would be their main and secondary ideas for what they're writing. Then they would do a rough draft in class on the second day of the workshop, and then the third day they're writing their final draft. So, and in that there's peer editing for each of those, and they get feedback from the instructor as well.
There's three categories: what is family, marriage, and change possible. So there's only 3 modules.
So those are that takes up 12 weeks of this. Actually, this is actually being tweaked right now too. That takes up the first 12 weeks, and then they have we do at the very end, they do a short story. So it's kind of a transition. We do a short story, and then it's a completely different. So we do these modules, and they're doing all vocabulary and anything that comes along with that for the first 12 weeks, and then the last 3 weeks are focused on the short story. So developing some of that reading comprehension and that. Our time is up. All right? Well, that's good because I'm done. There's the questions, thoughts. Just tomorrow, I'd love to see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll start tomorrow taking a look at goals and having a discussion about how goals inform our assessment procedures. Then we'll have some time to look at what you're currently doing, assessments that you're currently using, and discuss how they can be oriented more toward proficiency. So please bring along some things if you have a test that you want to bring along or an activity that you want to bring along that you're using to assess students. Bring that along with you, and we'll have some workshop time tomorrow to look at that. I'm sorry.